What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review for you, and one that we've been eagerly anticipating because, honestly, this was among, like, the first handful of reviews we ever did was the first album from this band.
Yeah, probably like the third or fourth review I think we ever did.
Yeah, and we've been really curious about this one because this was a band that hit, like, right before the pandemic, and then... well, I mean, the pandemic. Anyway.
Right.
So we're going to go over the latest offering from Vltimas, Epic. This also comes out on the 15th of March on Season of Mist Records. This band formed in 2015 internationally. You have members from the US, Canada, and Norway on here. And it is a supergroup. This features one Dave Vincent, formerly of Morbid Angel, Runa Blasphemer Eriksson, formerly of Mayhem, currently in R Noir, and one Flo Monnier from Cryptopsy on drums. And this is their long-awaited second album, and describing this band's sound initially was pretty easy. Their first album, Something Wicked Marches In, is definitely more of a straight-up blackened death metal act. I mean, just the pairing between David Vincent's very iconic death metal vocals and Runa Blasphemer's insanely awesome, tight riff work, but it definitely has a more black metal vibe to it on that first album. That's what we thought we were getting into.
Yes.
Like, legit, I was like, all right, I feel like I know what this is going to sound like. I had only jammed the song Scorcher before this, and man, I was off.
Yes, I was also off. Way off. In a very good way. It's not anything like the first record, and I loved the first record. I think that was one of my first 5-star ratings. It was really good to me at the time. It still is. I still like that record. But yeah, this is so much more than that. The first track, Volan's Discordant, I believe that's how you say that, is just an intro track, very unsettling, dissonant melody. It's got a good build to it, so you can definitely tell right off the bat that it's fairly sinister in nature by the sound. But then the first song, Epic, is pretty goddamn epic.
Yeah.
Gnarly, dissonant melody, and although it's got a very straightforward groove, man, it's something else.
I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Runa, his riff work is absolutely amazing on here. It was amazing on the first one. It's tight, it's melodic, but it's sinister and dark. His use of dissonant melodies across the board here adds so much to the atmosphere, but they're energetic, they're bombastic, and something very different about this, not only is the riff work, because it's definitely still blackened death metal or black metal, it's also a lot of other things, but the one that really stepped up here is David Vincent. Now, you know, longtime Morbid Angel fans, yeah, we know his death metal vocals are pretty much iconic. His clear delivery, you know, it's a huge part of death metal and rarely ever replicated. But here he's taking it to a totally different level. Like, outside of what he does in metal, we know he has like a outlaw country band, and he's got a solid baritone voice. He's a good crooner, but this is different in a lot of ways. He's kind of combining that death metal delivery, you know, like very much along the lines of like what you would hear on like Covenant. Yeah. But he's combining it with that crooning, and you have this sort of epic roar.
I compared it to like watching a Broadway performance. Like, he's got great lows still, of course, but he's got like operatic vocals at times, and like a variance between like ascending highs, and there's vibrato, and
a lot of vibrato.
Yeah.
And how he works it in, like, it's not just like a clean vibrato, like he's working it in a very gruff, gravelly delivery. There's a lot of stuff on here that kind of reminds me of Jazz Coleman from Killing Joke. Like, he's just noted for his wild vocal approaches. And, like, you have that sort of variety on this album. You have whispers, you have chants, you have just flat-out screams and growls. Scorcher, it sounds like David Vincent fronting Marduk. Like, it's just vicious black metal on the verses, with blast beats, but it switches up so often. Like, generally choruses on here have big anthemic hooks, whether it's repeating the title of the song, or it's some, you know, clever way to lead into the title of the song, or just like a good chorus hook, like Mephisto Manifesto. It's so much fun to say. That song is just sort of this groovy, sort of like fist pumping chant for Satan, and how it leads into that chorus, because he just says at the end, and it's this big epic vibrato, and again, it's like very gravelly at the same time. It's almost like, I don't know, like him kind of like covering Candlemas, but doing it in his own way. Now, we were talking about this because we were pausing in between tracks and talking about each one, like, holy shit, let's analyze that, because there's a lot going on. And John brought up Muppets.
I did.
And you know, and not like in a derogatory, like, oh, they're a bunch of Muppets. Like,
I'm not saying like he's, Kermit the Frog or anything. Definitely not.
But the voice itself, like, it has such a theatrical approach, like very Shakespeare in the Park at times. Yeah. And let's be honest, like Dave Steele in every scene that he's in. Like, he's playing every 100%. Villain in every Shakespearean play, and he's doing a great job on this. But when you said Muppets, the first thing I thought of was Sam the Eagle. If Sam the Eagle was a death metal vocalist doing this album... Yes. This is exactly how he would sound.
Yes.
He wouldn't look as cool as David Vincent.
No, but it would be Sam the Eagle. It would 100%.
Be.
And again, it's not so much of like the tone, but it's the epic, like, matter-of-factness that Sam the Eagle has. Like, this is definitely what's going on here.
Yeah, no matter what delivery David Vincent's doing on here, it's very commanding. It drives the song. I know, it's weird. I was right inside your brain. That's where I live now.
That's weird.
It's weird. There's only Muppets in there and, like, movie quotes.
That's right. Well, that's pretty normal anyway, but that's really spot on.
And there's actual flat-out singing on here, too. Miserere, I don't know if I said that right. The chorus on that is decidedly clean. Like, it's not as gravelly. He's actually singing it, and they do a good job of, like, layering in the vocals, too. And a lot of this epic atmosphere is created by the combination of David Vincent's really wild vocal performance. In fact, I would say this is one of his best vocal performances I've ever heard. And Runa's guitar work in here, because the man just has riff after riff, and they found this cool combination on here of melody, but it still remains very sinister, very energetic. Like, Runa's pick hand, it's ridiculous. It's moving like hummingbird wings.
Yeah, very melodic, but there's kind of like just an evil, sinister mist hanging over the whole record, because sometimes it's weird, like in songs like Spoils of War, very like epic soaring melodies almost at times. I got reminded of Mastodon and Baroness, and it was weird.
Yeah, there's like flat out doom metal riffs on there. There's some really awesome harmonies on there that just like catchier than hell. Nature's Fangs, there's a lead break on there where the lead, it kind of just goes classic heavy metal. Even the riff behind it, like it kind of harks back to, like heavy metal bands like Satan or Diamond Head. Like, it just kind of has that vibe. And then behind all this, you also have Flo on drums, which, granted, if you've been listening to Cryptopsy for years, or even just like one album, you probably go, wow, that drummer's absolutely insane.
That dude is nuts.
His drum performance on here is very reserved. Like, he's mostly staying in the pocket. You don't get a lot of like super technical drumming on here, but he is just absolutely driving these songs with these killer rhythms on here.
Yeah, and not a lot of blast. I mean, again, there's a lot of really straightforward moments, but at the same time, again, in songs like Nature's Fangs, there's a really simple melody that goes over the chorus, but it's the stuff that Flo is doing behind it that makes it more entertaining. Because while he's definitely following the tempo, he's got a lot of double kick flourishes or a lot of crazy snare accents, or it's bouncy at times. It's definitely very groovy, but there's so much more going on there while the melody is still so simplistic.
Yeah, in terms of like the more aggressive, fast-paced side of this band, you definitely get that on Miserere and Scorcher for sure. Like, definitely more blast beats on there. Miserere is way more thrashy on the verses. In fact, the riff work kind of just screams like just hyper-aggressive thrash, like a little bit of like Sodom kind of peppered in there. But it's the melodies that generally surround the riffs. Like, there's a lot of dissonant atmosphere in here, and that, again, contributes to this very sinister, creepy feel. But again, it's all very rousing. Like, that feels like the right word. Like, this isn't like, I need to check under my bed before I go to bed sort of like, creepiness. Like, this is like, man, Satan's a badass.
This is like, I need to grab a sword and follow these dudes into battle. Like, I'm ready to go. Yeah, for the most part, it's fairly epic, and I realize that they have an album called Epic, this one, but it's rightfully titled. Like, a majority of the time, it's just like, yeah, let's go, yeah!
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of a stark departure from the first one.
Yep.
The first one definitely had, again, a more sinister vibe throughout. It really didn't have at any point anything that really sounded a lot like this. Like, probably the closest things on there are like the more straightforward, heavy songs on here. Exorcitus Array is definitely a more aggressive track. There are pockets of blast beats, but they're kind of used more as accents. But the overall tone and vibe of that song is a little bit more like the first album, where it's just aggressive and evil, but it still manages to pepper in like clever melodies. Like, there's a breakdown on there. While it's very heavy, the melodic notes on top really seem to carry it more than just like the brooding fucking riffs.
Yeah, very unusual, because it's heavy, but that melody is so strange. A lot of earworms in this.
And like we said, most of this is a bit slower than the first one. Like, this isn't really a blast beat affair. Again, faster moments, but, you know, blast beats are used more as accents. And a lot of this is more about building the song to grand heights. They found kind of this cool balance on here between, like, melodic hooks, very theatrical, like, over-the-top sort of performances, especially, again, on Dave's part, and still heavy as fuck riffs. And even the production, I feel like, it's not like the heaviest production, but it's really good.
Yeah, the drums sound amazing. And again, we talked about Rune Eriksson's picking speed, you know. Being able to hear stuff like that in a mix requires a certain kind of tone. It's got like a little bit of crunch, but at the same time, it's got a little bit of warmth to it, and it just lies kind of perfect over everything, but you can hear everything.
Yeah.
You can hear the picking, you can hear the riffing, you can almost hear like his fingers going across the fretboard.
And for the most part, Dave is very much center stage with his vocals, as well he should. I mean, he's really making this album sound more epic with every track, but he moves around in the mix a lot, and I like that. Like, there's moments where he's kind of back in the mix, and it's kind of a low kind of ogre-y grumble like, in the background, and sometimes he's right out in front belting out some, again, like harsh crooning. And then sometimes he's kind of surrounding you, and like there's like layered vocals where they kind of turn into a gang chant. I think it's a Gang of Davids, which sounds very dangerous and leather-clad. And then sometimes Dave's just ranting crazily, like Mephisto Manifesto. The end of that, he's just, we must do this and this. The wicked do not rest. Something like that. Like, I mean, it sounds like he's, you know, gathering up the troops. Like, no, we have things to do, like villages to burn in the name of Satan.
Here's Seriously. A pitchfork and a torch.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
But the thing I really like about this album overall is it is uniquely catchy. It's that weird balance between Dave's vocals and Runa's riffs on here that really make this have like hooks that stand out, and they don't feel like generic. Like, there's really not a lot I could compare this to. And
correct.
Yeah, like I can compare like individual parts, like, oh yeah, these riffs are kind of similar to this, or, you know, that drum pattern's kind of similar to this, or Dave's vocals at this point were similar to this. But all of it together is kind of its own thing. And I think a lot of that is due to them kind of not staying in their respective lanes. Like, these guys come from black metal and death metal, and they're not just staying in those realms. Again, there's lots of stuff that explores, you know, like classic heavy metal, doom metal, thrash metal too. You know, it's kind of all over here and whirled up in such a way where the songs come off very dynamic, and they really do stand out from one another.
Yeah, they don't run into each other at all. From track to track, each one of them is uniquely different. They all bring so much to the table as far as dynamic is concerned. Like, there's not a single track on here I would skip.
Yeah. I mean, I might skip the intro just because it's the intro.
Yeah.
That's whatever. A lot of this, again, the unique hooks, and the fact that even when Dave is just growling, he's doing a lot of his growling in key, and that adds an additional melody on top of these really catchy riffs on here. As far as any negatives on here, there were a couple of tracks I didn't think stood out as much. I still think all of this is good, and it has a tight runtime. Like, this is under 40 minutes. But Scorcher, while I like it, it is one of the most aggressive tracks on there, and honestly, it's probably one of the most blackened tracks on here.
Yeah.
It's fast, aggressive, the riffs are icy cold, but I feel like the end, it kind of just peters out. And then Nature's Fangs, while I think shows off some of the most dynamic of Dave's crazy vocals on here, the song itself, I think, is good. It has good moments, but it doesn't come together as well in terms of like a big overall song. Like, I feel like it's trying to be more grand and epic, and it just falls a little bit short.
To be honest, I didn't have any gripes about any songs. The most lackluster thing on here is the intro track, and even then it's still got unsettling melodies to it. I mean, it still sets the pace for a definitely sinister album. I guess what it doesn't do is prepare you for how insane this is, but in a different way.
Yeah. I mean, my gripes were pretty minor, but I mean, overall, this was, well, kind of like the first one, because it was kind of a surprise.
Yeah.
Like, we knew who was in it, but we had no idea what it would sound like, and then it sounded awesome. And this, we knew who was in it, but it doesn't sound like the first one, and it also sounds awesome. In fact, it might surpass the first one in a lot of categories that I didn't think we'd be counting, like
Correct.
Melodic hooks.
Yep.
And fun sing-along choruses. I don't expect that from Dave Vincent. I expect good choruses, but not like sing-along ones. That's not the Dave I gravitate to. The Dave I gravitate to tells me where slimy things live and throws things to lions, like Christians. But, yeah, no, this is absolutely awesome. And I'm going to give it 4 stars. I think this is just a killer album, and man, it widens the path in terms of directions this band can go. And from what I gather, this is something that Dave considers a full-time project.
Sweet.
He wants to continue on this. This is his own entity. This isn't just a studio band.
Sweet.
And I like it. This is kind of a surprise direction, but it worked. I think they gambled on some stuff here. And, I mean, I feel like it could have just, shit itself in the studio. But, no, they committed to it. And, God, man, the combination of things on here. Again, Dave and Runa mainly, but Flo's drumming is absolutely excellent on here. I think the production is pretty much perfect for what they're going for. But Dave and Runa, again, scene sealers here. Like, Dave's vocal performance, this is the most different thing I've ever heard him do. And Runa is just a riffy beast.
Yes,
My God, dude.
Yes, he is. Whew.
These riffs are absolutely catchy as hell. They will get stuck in your head. And if they don't get stuck in your head, Dave's interesting choruses will. I strongly recommend checking this out. I mean, if you're a big fan of the first Vltimas, and I don't know what else. Like, I really don't know. Like, I mean, I still hear bits of Killing Joke, but like in a blackened death metal filter. I also hear stuff that is kind of comparable to Candlemass in a way, but again, a different filter on top of that as well. I don't know. This is just a uniquely heavy album, and you should check it out.
I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. I was really impressed. Again, vocally, I know we've said it, I think this is one of Dave's best performances, and it's because of not only all the sweet dynamic, but the way he presents it. Just everything is just raw, raw, yo, all the time, and I love it. The riff work is insane, and it's insane in such a unique way because it's not all tremolos and just rocket fire picking. Like, there's so many awesome melodies, and even like the time signature it's in, like some of it sways back and forth, and again, it just feels like you're on an evil boat ride sometimes. I have nothing bad to ever say about Flo. Flo's a hell of a drummer, and although he may not have been the focal point for this record, he did a great job. Everything is catchy, and it's very unique. And from song to song, it's very unique, and there are so many moments that I guarantee will just grab you and kind of pull you in, and you'll go, what the hell was that? But it works. Like, everything on this record works. It flows nicely. The mix is killer for what it is. The super theatric vocal presentation, I can't say enough good things about it. I mean, I've been a fan of Dave for a long time. We just saw him not too long ago, and he killed it. As far as comparing it to something, I'm going to stick with what Nick said and keep it very simple. If you like the first Vltimas, check this out. And this is very different, but it's so wonderfully very different. So, yeah, I totally recommend it. It's 4.5. I didn't have a single problem with it. Check it out.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It is also on our channel up in the banner in the bottom right-hand corner. But if you were looking for Thralls Metal stuff, you have to go to thrallsmetal.com. We have new shirts. We have old shirts that are discounted, provided we have your size. We even have hats, too. So if you're looking for any of that stuff, click the link down below.
And as always, tons of stuff going on at Thralls of Metal, between album reviews, collection updates, discography ranking. Meshuggah's coming up next. That'll be awesome. One of the reasons that we keep so much stuff going on here at Thralls of Metal is because of all of you.
And we're losers.
Well, and that. Anyway, yeah, we keep all this stuff going on here at Thralls because of you guys. You guys keep us moving between the comments and the interactions on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. And, I mean, there's always stuff going on. And it's because you guys keep us moving, and we are very appreciative of that. We cannot thank you enough.
Yep, even though I'm going to thank you a little bit more.
Ooh.
Yeah, because you guys are absolutely awesome, and a ton of stuff coming your way, because this month is loaded. Next month is probably loaded, too. The month after that, more than likely loaded as well.
2024 has been full of bangers.
Yeah, it's off to a really solid start. But, yeah, looking forward to overloading you guys with more content. So one more big thank you, because you're awesome.
Thank you.
And we will catch you later.